You're listening to an Ono Media podcast.
Good morning, and thanks for joining me for Rise in Crime, your morning caffeine hit all about crime. I'm Mama Jules, and let's start this episode with a story out of Rankin, Mississippi, where a 15-year-old has been found guilty of killing her mother, and we now know her sentencing as well. Let's start at the beginning. 40-year-old Ashley Smiley was the mother of two children. One child, Natalie, had passed away prematurely from health complications. Her remaining child, Carly, who was only 4 when her sister died, was also having some complicated issues, but they weren't because of a childhood illness. In March of this year, when Carly was 14 years old, her mother, Ashley, had helped Carly change her medications. Carly had previously been taking an antidepressant drug called Zoloft, and the desired results just weren't occurring. Carly switched to the anxiety and depression medication Lexapro, but Carly's change to the medication wasn't smooth. She was allegedly hiding her marijuana use from her mother, which could have been interfering with the medication. And she had other demons. She had burner phones that she was using to contact people that her mother Ashley knew nothing about. She was cutting her skin on her thighs to cope with mental anguish. She was writing in her journal that she was having conversations about death with voices in her head. On the morning of March 19th, while teaching math at Northwest Rankin High School, Ashley had been alerted by a friend that Carly was using marijuana and that she also had possessed burner phones. Now, Ashley didn't confront Carly during school that day. She could have, because Carly was a freshman at Northwest Rankin, but instead, at the end of the school day, she rushed home with Carly in tow and searched Carly's room. She was probably looking for evidence of marijuana, and unfortunately, she found what she was looking for when she discovered vape pens in Carly's room. Now, I can only imagine what this scene was like. Ashley probably very upset during the car ride. I've been there as a mother who raised 3 kids, and Carly is likely upset too, but she might not be showing it. Her mother is going through her things, maybe having accused Carly of breaking rules, maybe even saying things like, "I expect more from you." Those phrases us parents say that aren't helpful, but we say them anyway because we're just trying to raise kids. Now, during the search of the room, Carly takes the family's 2 retrievers outside to the backyard. When she comes back in, she slips away and walks down the hall to her mother and stepfather's room, where she located and took her mother's .357 Magnum. In a video from a security camera that was located in the kitchen area of the home, Carly can be seen walking from her parents' room with her hand tucked behind her back. Carly is seen on video crossing through the opening to the kitchen and traveling down the hallway towards her room. And then, just seconds later, 2 gunshots can be heard on the video, followed by screaming. Then 1 more gunshot, and then silence. A few moments later on the video, Carly emerges from the bedroom with her hand still tucked behind her back. She walks deeper into the kitchen and sits herself down on a bar stool at the counter, tucking something behind her back on the back of the bar stool. She reaches for her mother's phone and taps out a text to her stepfather, posing as her mother. She asks when he will be home, and her stepfather, he's Smiley, has no idea what danger he is in when he responds with his ETA for arriving home that day. As Carly is sitting at the counter, she begins singing and playing with her dogs. And then Carly texts a friend from her phone asking the friend to come over. Now, it's going to be a bit before Heath arrives, and Carly must have thought she had time to share her deadly deed with her friend. Carly also texts another friend and writes, "I effed up." Now, before the first friend arrives, Carly heads back into her bedroom where she places a red towel over her mother's face and poses her mother's body by placing her hands across her chest. When the friend arrived, Carly asked her if she'd ever seen a dead body. She then pointed towards her bedroom and said, "My mom's in there." Carly led her friend to the grisly scene and explained that it was 1 shot for the chest and 2 for the head. Carly then allegedly told her friend she needed to hide outside because her stepfather was about to arrive and her friend couldn't be in the house when he came home. She also instructed her friend not to call 911. When Heath Smiley entered the home through the back door, he was met with 3 gunshots from Carly. One bullet hit Carly's intended target in the shoulder, but Heath managed to wrestle the gun from Carly in a struggle that ensued. Carly surrendered the gun and then fled from the house through the back door where her friend was waiting for her. Heath discovered his murdered wife in Carly's bedroom with an especially horrific shot purposely placed under Ashley's chin. And that's when Heath called 911. Let's listen to this portion of the 911 call where Heath is distraught. He is so distraught that the dispatcher actually thinks Heath is a female at first.
Your daughter tried to shoot you? Yeah. Shooting at me. Where is she at? She ran away. How old is she? 14. 14? Okay, ma'am, stay on the phone. Ma'am, stay on the phone with me. Just calm down. What's your name? Okay, calm down for me. Give me your name again. Heath Smiley. Heath Smiley?
As the call progresses, you hear Heath explain that Carly shot her mom.
Okay, just calm down for me. We got everybody headed. She what? She killed her mom. She killed her mom? Yeah, that's what I'm screaming about. Where's the mom? When I do this, she doesn't kill me. Where's the mom at?
Police arrested Carly about a half of a mile away from her home just minutes after that frantic call was made by Heath. All right, let's catch you up to the trial. And I'm going to tell you, unlike most trials, this one was actually speedy. It's September, and this murder, an attempted murder, happened in March. When the defense presented their case, they relied heavily on the concept that Carly suffers from blackout episodes and that she experienced one of those episodes on the afternoon of March 19th. They presented a case described where they fully admitted that Carly murdered her mother and attempted to murder her stepfather. That guilt was not in question. Instead, they presented a case explaining who did it, which was Carly, but also excusing her guilt. The attorneys asked the jury to get inside the 14-year-old's mind and understand the mental illness that she experiences. The defense said Carly has a biological father who is bipolar, and Carly was worried she was bipolar as well. Her attorney also highlighted that the change in medications, the changes in her developing body, and the changes in her social circle all exacerbated her mental illness. The defense relied heavily on the expert psychology witness, saying that they had examined Carly and that doctor found her lack of panicked behavior on the video was very concerning. That expert said she should have exhibited a change in behavior after shooting her mother, but she didn't. She calmly sings, she texts friends, she stages her mother's body, and there are no signs of panic. The defense also noted that once Carly was incarcerated, that she was medically removed from Lexapro and began taking a different combination of drugs, including Celexa and Abilify. And then her disorder improved dramatically once the correct combination of drugs was discovered and administered. And guess who the defense also relied on as a witness? Heath Smiley. Even though his stepdaughter shot at him 3 times and narrowly missed his head with one of the bullets, and even though his stepdaughter killed his wife, Heath testified during the trial that he didn't recognize the person that shot him on that day. And what he meant by that was he knew it was Carly, but he said it wasn't the Carly he loved and knew. Let's give a listen to his testimony that he gave after the video surveillance footage from the garage camera of him arriving home was shown to the jury.
It was Carly screaming, and you heard me holler, "What's the matter?"
And what about seeing Carly made you ask her what was wrong?
I could immediately tell that something was bad wrong with Carly. Just screaming, her eyes were just huge. She looked like she was terrified.
Have you ever heard Carly scream like that before?
No.
Have you ever seen Carly look as terrified as she did on March 19th before?
No.
Would Carly have any reason to run from you?
No.
What, if anything, had Carly told you about her biological dad, Kevin Gregg, doing drugs?
Everyone that I can think of, it sounds like he has either tried or does regularly.
And what did her biological dad doing drugs in her presence?
He was constantly doing drugs in front of her, blowing the smoke in her face. Turns out that he sat her down and made her drink an entire beer when she was 12.
And what, if anything, had Carly told you about her dad offering her drugs during her visitation periods?
Not sure on that, but I think she said they were laying around all over the place throughout his house, and I think he had tried to get her to do some various things at one point or another.
You can hear that he testifies that something was clearly wrong with Carly on that March afternoon. She wasn't herself. Heath also testified that the gun was kept in their bedroom on Ashley's side of the bed because she was terrified that her ex-husband would show up one day and harm her and her family. Now, the attorney asked the jury to find her not guilty by reason of insanity, understanding she wouldn't walk free. She would instead face a different form of treatment and incarceration. Well, the prosecution presented a different version of Carly. They also had their own psychological expert witness that claimed his expertise had far more depth than the defense expert. The prosecutor said the delay between the murder of her mother and the attempted murder of her father could not be explained away by a blackout episode, arguing that she was fully aware of what she was doing. She was able to text friends and plan an ambush of her stepfather and then to hide the gun behind her back away from the kitchen camera. They also said when Carly texted her friend and said she had effed up, that she was aware and admitting her behavior. Their final argument about Carly's behavior was that she chose to run and that she ran because she knew she was guilty. The prosecution argued that many people with anxiety and depression, well, they have to try multiple drugs before they find that one drug that works best for their mental complexities. And then they said all of those people do not kill their loved ones during that prescription discovery phase. Well, the prosecution pointed out that Carly didn't express regret following the shootings. She allegedly told investigators and psychologists that she missed going to school. And then she allegedly never said she missed her mom. A deputy testified that in the hours following her mother's murder, Carly never asked about her mother. She only asked about Heath, how Heath was, and the deputy interpreted that as her trying to figure out if her stepdad was mortally wounded, or if he had said anything about her, or if he was mad at her. It is eerie watching the footage from the trial. Carly does seem so young in this courtroom. She isn't that 15-year-old that looks like she's 22. She looks like she could be 12. She's a young girl with teen acne and a round, childlike face. It was also eerie to watch the camera footage from the home, especially when Carly retrieves the gun and peers around the corner of the kitchen before heading down the hallway to murder her mother. She's kind of checking to see if the coast is clear. And she is clearly hiding the gun behind her back. There's also the constant in the trial where Carly is weeping. She is crying so hysterically that snot trails from her nose as her shoulders heave. The trial lasted 5 days before the jury deliberated for just 2 hours, returning with a guilty verdict for murder in the first degree. Following the guilty verdict, Carly was sentenced to life in prison without parole. And it's important to note that Carly had previously turned down a plea deal. Prosecutors had offered her 40 years in prison if she had pled guilty to the murder and attempted murder charges. She declined. Ashley loved Disney World and would frequently visit her favorite Florida beaches while also visiting the theme park. She loved to take the golden retrievers, Wyatt and Finn, on long walks. Her obituary states her greatest joy in life was being a mother. I think the fact that her family and Heath had so much compassion for Carly during the trial shows they respected Ashley's love for Carly and her deceased daughter, Natalie. And I can't not bring you this story out of Kentucky because the rumors are swirling, and I'm guessing this one is one we're going to be following for a bit. So let's start with what happened on Thursday of last week. At about 2:55 in the afternoon, state police were summoned to the Letcher County Courthouse. This when shots were fired inside the chambers of 54-year-old Judge Kevin Mullins. Letcher County is on the border of Kentucky and Virginia, and it only has a population of just over 21,000 people. This is small town. Everyone knows everyone, especially if you work in the legal circles of Whitesburg. That town only has a population of less than 2,000 people. It's also a county that has deep family ties. Generations of families have called Whitesburg home since it was settled in the early 1800s. So when those gunshots rang out last Thursday, the community was shaken. When first responders arrived, they found Judge Mullins dead. And sitting there, just waiting to be arrested, was 43-year-old Letcher County Sheriff Sean Steins. Now, the two knew each other well, and Sheriff Steins, who goes by Mickey, was there to be deposed about a lawsuit involving one of his deputies. A circuit court clerk told the Associated Press that he had seen the two together earlier that day, and all seemed well. He even said the judge and the sheriff ate lunch together. But whatever occurred behind closed doors in those early afternoon hours led to Mullins being murdered and Mickey not fighting his arrest. So what's the lawsuit about? Well, Judge Mullins has a history of working with drug-related offenses. He was a judge who promoted substance abuse treatment over incarceration when he was tasked with sentencing people. So we have a pro-outpatient treatment judge. And his presumed friend, Mickey, was elected sheriff in 2018 and then again in 2022. The trouble for Mickey started about a little over a year ago when two women filed a lawsuit that included Mickey as a defendant. One of the women was claiming that one of Mickey's deputies had forced her to repeatedly have sex with him inside Judge Mullins' chambers. This was in exchange for her to be able to stay out of jail. And the lawsuit accuses the sheriff of deliberate indifference in failing to adequately train and supervise his deputies. So, okay, are you catching the tie here? We have a deposition occurring on Thursday for a lawsuit that directly connects Judge Mullins' chambers to the accusations. The criminal portion of this case has already occurred. The lawsuit is the civil portion. Okay, so let's break those two things down. On the criminal side of things, former Deputy Sheriff Ben Fields pleaded guilty to raping the female prisoner while she was on home incarceration. For that guilty plea, Deputy Fields was sentenced to 6 months in jail and then 6.5 years on probation for rape, sodomy, perjury, and tampering with a prisoner monitoring device. Okay, it's that last charge we got to look at, because the deputy would remove the device so that the woman could freely move about without detection, which is why she was exchanging those sexual favors or being raped in order for that exchange of being able to move out and about. Now, Deputy Fields, the one who took off the ankle monitor and did the raping, according to his plea, well, he has direct connection to Judge Mullins because he was working as the judge's bailiff. So you get it? He's using the chambers because he had access to the judge's chambers. Now, Mickey did fire the deputy after the lawsuit was filed, but that didn't sit well with everyone who claimed he knew the rape was occurring in the judge's chambers and that he should have acted sooner. Here's another part. The civil suit, was also filed before criminal charges were handed down to the deputy. Again, another agitation for those in Letcher County who were supportive of the two women. But those in the legal circles had nothing but praise for Mickey and Judge Mullins, this according to Politico, which is why the rumors are circulating about the shooting. People just can't wrap their heads around how a quiet day at the courthouse could turn deadly, especially if the two had an understanding that this was going on. All right, the deposition, the lawsuit, this was all old news for everyone. Mickey was just working his way through it. So, what caused a family man to pull his service pistol and shoot his good friend Judge Mullins? Patty Wood, the widow of District Judge Jim Wood, that's Mullins' predecessor, well, she said she has been close friends with the Steins and Judge Mullins' family for years. She said she was shocked by the shooting and the arrest of Mickey. She said, quote, "You couldn't find a better person on the face of the earth than Mickey Steins. I don't know what could have happened." And then we've got Jennifer Taylor. She's an attorney in Whitesburg, and she said Mickey was a man with a big heart. She even said they had talked about him retiring from law enforcement and potentially going to law school. And then there's Kentucky Attorney General Russell Coleman. He said his office will collaborate with a regional Commonwealth's attorney as special prosecutors in the criminal case, Steins going against Mullins, since the lead county prosecutor, Matt Butler, had to recuse himself and his entire office. So why can't they conduct the investigation? Well, the reason for the recusal is because Matt and the judge married two sisters and their children act like siblings. He is literally the brother-in-law of the murdered judge. You guys, I said small town. Does it get any smaller than what I've described to you? Now, I am very reluctant to speculate on why Mickey shot his friend Judge Mullins. Online rumors are hinting that the judge might have had an inappropriate relationship with one of Mickey's children. I'm going to leave it at that, since none of the rumors have yet to be substantiated by either affidavits or legal interviews. My guess is we're going to be talking about this again. And let me finish with this. What are we doing here in the United States? I get it. Love triangles happen. Murder happens. It's totally understandable, even though tragic. But pediatric car deaths? Come on, parents. Don't leave your kids in hot cars. I try not to pass judgment on rise in crime. And believe me, it's hard to not pass judgment sometimes. But in this case, it's so preventable. Last week, 2 more children died, and they were added to the total, now reaching 35 deaths in the U.S. for 2024 for toddlers, babies, young kids being left in hot cars. All right, let's point out a few that have happened in the last month and a half. On September 11th, Tradavia Edwards was indicted for leaving her 9-month-old daughter in a hot vehicle in Jefferson County, Missouri. And it's now been determined that a death of a child back in June in Florida was also due to heat stroke when a 3-year-old was found unresponsive at a home inside a car parked outside. Then at the beginning of this month in Anaheim, a toddler was rushed to the hospital where she later died. Police say her mother, Sandra Hernandez, left that child inside a hot Ford Expedition. A family member discovered the child locked inside of the car with several empty alcohol bottles that were found inside the car also. And back in July, a 2-month-old in New Jersey was left in a hot car for 4 hours. First responders attempted life-saving measures at that scene, but it was too late for the baby girl. The girl's father was charged with endangering a child, and then he was released from jail. Go ahead and be angry about that one, because I get it if you are. In Nebraska, a 5-year-old died on July 10th when his foster mother, Juanita Pinion, left the child in the locked car unattended for hours. She was charged with child abuse resulting in the death of a child, and she's still incarcerated in the Douglas County Correctional Facility awaiting her trial. And of course, there was the death of the 2-year-old out of Arizona. I brought you that story on Rise and Crime when Christopher Schultes left his child sleeping in a car seat while he put away groceries and then played video games for 3 hours. When his wife returned home, she found the child dead in the car. Court records in that case claim a pattern of neglect by Chris when it comes to his children. His other 2 children have given statements about how their father frequently left them and their youngest sister in the car unattended. They also told investigators that their father and mother would argue about Chris's excessive drinking while he was supposed to be tending to the children while the mother worked as a nurse anesthetist. Texts between the parents also have revealed that Erica, that's the wife, had scolded Chris before about his inattentive behavior with the children. In one text, Erica claims Chris was driving at 138 miles per hour with their child in the car and also alcohol in his system. Chris responded via text that Erica hates him and that their child was perfectly fine because she was sleeping while he was driving. Chris did go on to admit in later text messages that he was a horrible father who needed help. But that's where the conversation ended. And now their 2-year-old daughter, Parker, is dead. I know that some deaths are truly accidental, but 35 in 1 year with 3 months remaining and hot weather still occurring, it's not accidental 35 times. Well, that's your Monday episode of Rise and Crime. Thanks for joining me here on Rise and Crime. I love being a part of your day. And big news, today is the day that Halloween merch drops for Oh No Media. The link is available in Murder with My Husband's bio on Instagram. Go there to see the different styles of sweatshirts and t-shirts that are available to celebrate Halloween. You guys, if you're loving this content, please share this show with a friend. We love 5-star reviews and positive comments, especially on the YouTube channel. Make sure you leave a comment. It really helps the video circulate. And go ahead and like and follow all of our social media and YouTube accounts here at Oh No Media. That's Into the Dark, Murder with My Husband, and of course, Rise and Crime. Join me again on Thursday for more morning crime news. I'm Mama Jules, and keep safe out there.